Happy 2021, everyone. And what better way to ring in the new year than to talk some spoilers about Wonder Woman 1984. It's been out for a week now, so that is a spoiler warning. If you have not watched Wonder Woman 1984 yet, you probably shouldn't watch this video. Man, it has been a long time since I've done a spoiler talk. This is gonna be interesting. I feel like the general consensus on this movie is kind of divisive. I don't really know anyone who really loves this movie to death. I think generally speaking, people either think it's alright or they flat out hate it. I think it's alright. I've watched it 4 times now, I think. 3 or 4. Alright, so let's jump in. The movie starts out with the flashback on Themyscira and those Amazon games. They're all playing Amazon Ninja Warrior. Totally what that reminded me of. And I've heard some people say that this scene doesn't really add to the movie and it doesn't have to be in there. And I kinda get it, but I do respectfully disagree. I mean, first of all, that scene is really fun to watch. The music during it is especially good. But also, of course, the reason it's in the movie in the first place is so it can set up the moral of the story. You know, the whole no good is born from lies thing. Because young Diana falls off her horse and so she goes through that tunnel. She tries to cheat to win, but then she's told, no, you don't get to win because you cheated and the truth is stronger than everything else. Which I'll get to that later. The fact that truth is just this really strong force in this movie, in the universe. I do see a point to that, but I'll get to it later. So now we flash forward to 1984, going from full screen to widescreen, which I thought was really cool. And I gotta say, after evaluation, that mall action scene in the beginning is probably my favorite Wonder Woman action scene in the movie. I just loved it. She's stopping these guys who are pretty much the worst criminals ever, but the music that's kicking on and her action with the lasso, I just thought it was all sorts of Wonder Woman badassery. It was a great intro for her in this movie, I thought. But that's also where we get to my first problem, because these criminals, they're robbing this store that's supposedly like a front for some sort of black market of antiquities, and among these antiquities is the Dreamstone, which we learn the Dreamstone has been in a lot of places, but how did it get here? How did it get to this store? How did it get to Washington, D.C., which is where most of this movie takes place? That's never really explained. I mean, that could be me wanting to know a little too much. You know, this movie can only answer so many questions, but I feel like that is a valid question. How did the Dreamstone end up here in the first place? So we see that Diana Prince is living in Washington, D.C. now. She's working at the Smithsonian Museum. Makes sense, since she's been around for so long. She would know a lot about history. But the thing that made me go, what? Is the fact that, okay, it's been 66 years since the events of the first Wonder Woman movie, and she's still not over Steve Trevor? Look, I get it. I understand that it can be hard to get over a relationship. That's hard for everyone. But 66 years, Diana. Come on. Come on. You're telling me you have not been on one single date since then? I don't know. Who knows? Maybe men are ultimately unnecessary when it comes to bodily pleasure. I'd like to think not, though. I just feel like to not get over someone after 66 years is just unrealistic. Then we meet Barbara Minerva, played by Kristen Wiig, and she starts out as this really dorky scientist girl. She's a wallflower. No one really respects her. It wasn't too far into the movie first time I watched it when I made the comparison to Jamie Foxx from Amazing Spider-Man 2, because it's actually pretty similar. They're both nerdy, they're outcasts, they idolize the main character, the hero, and then they get powers and become the villain. They're pretty similar. And so the Smithsonian gets their hands on this Dreamstone, so the characters, they start making wishes. Diana wishes for Steve Trevor to come back. I'll get to that. Barbara wishes to become like Diana. And so that's what happens. She becomes more popular. People start to notice her. She starts looking a lot prettier. But then later on, you notice she's starting to gain Diana's powers as well. She gets her super strength, her reflexes. I thought that was pretty cool. Then we get to Maxwell Lord, and after watching this movie a few times, I've ultimately decided that I don't like this character. Again, he's just really over dramatic. He just yells everything. And really, there was not a lot of depth to his character, really. I mean, yeah, he has a son, Alistair. So it's like, okay, everything he's doing for his son so he can be closer to his son. But that whole thing really just came across as flat. Because his son wasn't really a character. His son in this movie was a plot device. Something for Max Lord to be like, oh, that's what I'm doing all this for. You know what I mean? But really, Maxwell Lorenzano, all he wants is this Dreamstone, which that's another question I have, is how does he even know about the Dreamstone in the first place? How did he find out about it? You see in his office later that he was researching into it, but like, how did he initially find out about it? The movie never explains that. There is an Easter egg though, when he's talking with that guy Simon Stagg. I was like, oh, that's Simon Stagg. I know Simon Stagg from Batman Arkham Knight, the video game. You come across him in that game, and so that's how I know him. I just thought that was a cool Easter egg. Alright, now we get to Steve Trevor's return, and alright, this is kind of a mixed bag for everyone pretty much. Diana wished for Steve Trevor to come back, and so the way Steve came back is that ultimately his spirit possessed the body of some random guy. This average random dude who I assume had a life, maybe a job, maybe his own girlfriend. And so to Diana, she sees Steve Trevor, she sees Chris Pine, but I imagine everyone else sees that random dude. Like when he looked in the mirror, he saw that random dude. He didn't see Steve Trevor. I just thought that was really weird. And some people I've seen on Twitter, they really didn't like that they made that choice. Because you see scenes where they're in bed together and they're making out, and people have said, oh, Diana, break this guy because he's not actually Steve Trevor. He's like this other dude who was possessed. I read those comments and I was like, Well, they're not entirely wrong. I mean, I don't want to look that deep into it, really, because it's a lighthearted superhero movie. All I'm saying is that I thought it was kind of weird. I feel like they could have brought Steve Trevor back in a better way. And so pretty soon after that, Max Lord gets his hands on the Dreamstone. He wishes to become it, meaning he wishes to have the powers of the Dreamstone. So now people touch him and make wishes, and he can grant their wishes. Which, if I remember correctly from the comics, which, disclaimer, I never grew up reading comic books. I'd never even heard of Maxwell Lord before this movie was announced. But aren't his powers in the comics something like that? Like mental manipulation or something like that? Kind of like Kilgrave from Jessica Jones or something? Well, anyway, now he can grant people's wishes, but he takes things in return. That's the whole thing about the Dreamstone, is that it grants wishes, but with a trick. Diana wished for Steve Trevor to come back. She got that, but now her powers are slowly going away, like Spider-Man 2. You see her struggle with that big lock when you know she's supposed to be like, clink! Lock's done. Barbara Minerva wished to be more like Diana. She got that, but now she's losing her own, like, morality, her humanity. And Maxwell Lord, he can now grant wishes, but now his health is starting to go down the drain. He's deteriorating, he's getting bloody noses and that pink eye that looked really gross. So now that he has become the Dreamstone, he can grant wishes, but now he also takes things in return. Like that one guy in Egypt who wanted his land back. He got his land back, but then Maxwell Lord was like, I'll take your security in return. And then his security guys just turned turncoat on him and followed Max out. You learn that this Dreamstone was actually originally made by one of the gods, the Calafria Ero, also known as the Duke of Deception, who I guess is a character from the comics. That's cool. Again, I'd never heard of him before now, but there you go. I thought that was pretty cool though. And alright, now the fact that truth and things like that, they're like universal elements in this world. And Diana explains that when they are imbued into objects, they can be very, very powerful and dangerous. These elements like truth, love, hope, they are all powerful forces in this universe. That can easily be seen as, oh, that's really cheesy. But I, however, don't see it that way because in DC, these things are big, all-powerful forces. They're what power the Lantern Corps. You know, Green Lanterns are fueled by willpower, and Red Lanterns are powered by rage, Yellow Lanterns are powered by fear. That's a thing in DC lore, which I always thought was really cool and creative. We've seen in Shazam that the 7 deadly sins are powerful forces. So yeah, things like truth and love, they can be powerful forces too. I think that's really cool. All right, let's talk about the invisible jet scene. First of all, I want to say I called it back when the first trailer came out over a year ago. I was like, are they in the invisible jet? Turns out, yep, that's totally an invisible jet scene. And yeah, okay, I liked seeing it in the movie because I was like, holy shit, I know the invisible jet. It was really cool to see, yeah. And it did somewhat make sense. You know, Diana and Steve, they need to get to Cairo somehow. So they steal a jet from the Air and Space Museum. I guess they can do that. They're like, hey, this jet's just lying around. Let's just take it because we can. No security or anything. They need to get to Cairo without being shot down. So yeah, invisible jet. The problem I had was how she turned it invisible, because it really just came out of nowhere. Diana, all of a sudden, she's like, oh yeah, I've been practicing how to turn things invisible because my father Zeus turned Themyscira invisible. Me and my brother, first time we were watching it, we were like, where did this come from? We both felt like that was just bullshit. Now, come on, nothing ever led up to this. Now all of a sudden Diana can just turn things invisible? She never does it again in the movie either. It's just this one time for a bit of fan service, just so we can have an invisible jet scene, and then she just forgets about it and she never turns anything invisible again. I feel like she could turn herself invisible, that would come in handy later, but no. It was bullshit. Again, that's the splitting factor. It was cool to see, but story-wise, it just didn't make any sense at all. This is the first of a few things like that in this movie. Another one is the whole golden armor, which I was really bummed about because from the very beginning of the marketing, this is the very first poster they released for it, they were showing off that golden armor. All over the marketing for this movie, they were like, all right, Wonder Woman's gonna have her golden eagle armor from the comics. After watching the movie, I felt like this armor did not have to be in the movie at all, nor did anything about it with the whole Asteria thing. I mean, that whole thing had me scratching my head. Apparently there was a point in time where mankind enslaved the Amazons? Did that happen? Was that part of the story that Hippolyta told young Diana in the beginning of the first Wonder Woman movie? I don't think it was. But apparently there was a point where mankind enslaved the Amazons. And so Queen Hippolyta freed them all and they fled to Themyscira. But one Amazon, this mighty warrior, Asteria, stayed behind to fight off all of mankind with this armor that everyone built for her out of everyone else's armor, I guess. Which is a cool story, but I just felt like it didn't have to be in the movie at all. It had no relevance. Like when Wonder Woman goes through the big fight at the end, she just decides to put on that golden armor just cuz. That's literally the reason she puts it on. She's like, I've never put on this armor before in the past however many years I've had it, but tonight seems like as good a night as any, so why not? It just really bummed me out. I was hoping for the armor that has been advertised for months to have a little more emotional weight to it, you know? That's just a big letdown. So ultimately, Max Lord's big thing is that he's going to broadcast himself to the entire world using this particle thing that he got from the president, and he's gonna grant wishes on a global scale. And it gets really out of control to the point where like there's chaos in the streets, nuclear war is happening, you know, these missiles start launching, which yeah, it gets pretty bad. Wonder Woman's definitely gotta stop this. That's what I meant in my review when I said, yeah, the stakes get pretty high in this movie. I'll give it props for that. So to get her powers back, Diana has to say goodbye to Steve Trevor. And this scene I actually really felt. I really liked this scene. I felt that Gal Gadot's acting was really good here. She has to renounce her wish and she's holding Steve, she's crying. She even says, I'll never love again. I don't know why, I just did not hate that line. I actually really felt it. I felt bad for her. I was like, shit, you really love this guy. It was tough. I don't know. Maybe I'm soft. But they say goodbye, and then she gets her powers back. She starts running. She launches herself into the air. And then this is the third thing that made me go, what? That had no explanation. Is where she starts flying. And again, I liked seeing it because I've always known that Wonder Woman can fly in the comics and in the cartoons. But nowhere in the first Wonder Woman movie, or Batman v Superman, or Justice League, did we see Wonder Woman fly. Which I was like, why can't Wonder Woman fly in this universe? She should be able to. So now in this movie, she starts flying, which looked cool, yeah. I love seeing it, especially when she does a Superman pose. That was badass. But that is kind of a retcon, and it came out of nowhere. Like, how did she learn how to fly all of a sudden? The scene in the jet where she's talking to Steve and he's like, yeah, wind and air, feel it, join with it. I don't feel like that was enough foreshadowing for her to be like, oh, now I know how to fly. Again, just no real explanation. It just kind of came out of nowhere. Those things in this movie were really the biggest problem with it. And that all goes back to the screenplay. Just because something looks cool and it's a fan service thing doesn't mean it works in the movie. If something doesn't work in the story, then it's gonna stick out like a sore thumb as something that did not work in the movie. And all these things, the jet, the armor, the flying, they were cool to see and I liked seeing them as a fan, but ultimately for a better movie, I feel like these things should just not have been in there. They had no real place in the plot. But hey, Wonder Woman flying was really cool. So she flies over to that final showdown wearing Asteria's armor. At this point, Maxwell Lord is granting wishes on a global scale. He's taking people's health and rage. He's like, yeah, give all your rage to Barbara. And apparently that's what turns Barbara into this cheetah-like being. I felt that was really weak. I mean, yeah, she wished to be an apex predator, but at that point she could have been turned into an orca whale or something. Why she turned into a cheetah? I'll never know. It did make for a cool fight though. I enjoyed the Wonder Woman cheetah fight. It was a pretty short fight, yeah, but it was still fun to watch. They're hanging on the rope and they're trying to just claw at each other, and ultimately the fight ends when they're in the water and that cable snaps and electrocutes the water, which I really feel like should have killed Cheetah. That should have stopped her heart, right? I mean, with Diana, I get why she wasn't killed because she's part god, so electrocution's not gonna hurt her. Hell, I mean, she's the daughter of Zeus. She can swing on lightning bolts and be fine. But with Barbara, I guess she still has some of Diana's powers, so I guess she wasn't killed. Well, I guess that's fair enough. So to stop Maxwell Lord, Diana goes into this chamber where he is. He's still broadcasting himself to the world. Diana ties her lasso of truth to his foot, and she makes this speech about how no good is born from lies, and I can relate to that, and blah blah blah. And alright, couple things about this. First of all, for you music heads, did you notice the music that was playing during that speech? If you didn't, that was Batman's theme from Batman v Superman. I'm not kidding, it really was. When I heard it, I was like, that's weird. I mean, I get that it's Hans Zimmer, but I mean, why? I don't get it. But Diana makes this speech, which I guess also gets broadcasted somehow, and she convinces everyone around the world to renounce their wish, which everyone renounces their wish? Seriously, not a single person decides to go, nah, I'm gonna keep my wish because I like having this money. No one. Not a single person? I find that just a little unbelievable. No, actually, quite unbelievable. I mean, I like that we get a happy ending, sure. I mean, even Max goes, I renounce my wish, and he runs off, and he reunites with his son, and so they're gonna be happy together, which, alright, good for him. I just felt like the fact that everyone renounced their wish was a little too cheesy. I like cheese in my superhero movies, but that was way too much, at least in my opinion. And so that's how the movie ends. The movie ends with everything going back to normal. Those nuclear missiles, which are in mid-launch, they blow up mid-air, so nuclear war has been prevented. Yay! Victory! The mid-credit scene, I love the mid-credits scene here. We get to see Asteria, who is still living amongst the humans, and she's played by none other than Linda Carter. If you somehow don't know who Linda Carter is, she was the original Wonder Woman back in the 1970s TV show. You know, Wonder Woman! And she looks great, too. I mean, she's 69 years old. Looks pretty good. Just saying. It does make me wonder though, could she possibly show up in the third Wonder Woman movie, which was just announced as greenlit, by the way? I honestly could see it going either way. Maybe this was just a cameo for this one scene. But there is a small part of me that would like to see her have a role in the third movie. I don't know. There's a part of me that wants to see Gal Gadot and Linda Carter, Wonder Woman and Asteria, team up to fight bad guys. I just think that'd be really cool in a movie, if they can work it into the story, that is. So in the end, Wonder Woman 1984, obviously I did have some problems with it, but ultimately I found myself really enjoying it. I love seeing all the cool shit. In order to really enjoy this movie, for me personally, I feel like I would have to turn my brain off. Just kick up my feet and enjoy a Wonder Woman movie, and don't worry about the specifics. If I do that, then I can really enjoy this movie a lot. All 2.5 hours of it. Like I said, the third Wonder Woman movie has been greenlit. Patty Jenkins is once again going to direct, which, Good for her. She's now gonna have a Wonder Woman trilogy under her belt. Although it's gonna be a long wait for that third movie if she's doing Star Wars next, so we Wonder Woman fans will just have to be patient. But I don't hate Patty Jenkins as a director. I think she did a really good job. It's really the screenplay, which, yeah, okay, she did write a little bit of that too. I think she's a good director, not the best screenwriter. So for the third movie, get some better screenwriters. That's what I think. And so now I'm gonna ask what you think. For the third Wonder Woman movie, what do you think they should do? What do you think would make it the best version of itself it can be? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe.